G'day patrons, welcome to Monday, July 23rd. I say that because 4 days from now, it is July 27th, which is my birthday. Very special day for me and for my brother, I guess. But I'm super excited. I don't know if you know this, I'm a twin, but you know, for most of my birthdays, I shared them, which is not a bad thing. I'm a very sharing person, but it is nice in my older years to get to have that all for myself. My sister is actually born on the 29th, so it was just on the 28th, it was general consensus that was the children's birthday. So my mum would just do a one and done deal on the 28th. So as I get older, I kind of made up for lost time and just really went all out on my birthdays. I spent my 19th, 20th, 21st, and 27th birthday in Japan. Was kind of hoping to spend this one there too. Which one am I not hoping to spend there is the question. Like, I would spend 24,000 days of the year in Japan if I could. But I did kind of set a new goal. I don't know if you saw me tease that on Insta stories. I'm like whole joke, half earnest with that. If I get to 500 patrons, I really do want to go to Japan and do some like big creative extravaganza. And by that, I mean take myself and Steve to Japan to eat, drink, do karaoke, and go to Tokyo Disney. Although this time I think I would get on a bullet train and kind of go down south and do a bit more of a cultural experience. Steve and I will do a big podcast on Japan on Wednesday. Where we're going to talking about all our experiences there, because we've done a lot and we've done tons of different things. So it's kind of one of those holidays now that's actually really simple. When you go, you don't have a lot of expectations because you're kind of just there for the nostalgia of it. And there's still so much to do. Honestly, Tokyo is one of those places you will never fully discover. I guess a lot of cities are like that. But when we do go there now, there's no pressure to do like tons of touristy stuff. It's more just reliving old experiences, visiting if any of our friends are out there, if any of our performer friends are out there. I'll talk all about it on Wednesday. But today's video might not make a lot of sense to you, but it makes a ton of sense to me. So I guess that's important. It's about Swatchdolls, but that's because your downloadable next month, your monthly downloads are going to be Swatchdoll sheets. I've been asked for so long if I would make those Swatchdoll sheets available. They're kind of like big coloring sheets where I've done them on video before, where I just kind of swatch through all my watercolors with the big Swatchdoll illustrations. So I'm just kind of making a bunch. I'm kind of testing out how many colors I can fit on certain themes and patterns, and if I do want to theme and pattern them a certain way. So today was just more about a bit of a brainstorming session. You can see me pull inspiration from one thing to another, just kind of testing a few things and getting ready for that, because that will be your downloadable for next month. And I think I have a bunch of footage of me on the iPad for on Procreate as well. I have a few tips to share. Nothing crazy. I've said before, if you want to really learn Procreate or any of your iPad stuff, everything I learned I got from a YouTube video, and I only watched a couple. There's not many features I really use on the iPad other than Procreate, and even in that, you can see I'm taking a photo of my picture here because you can. So as long as the photo is flat and not skewed, you can get a very accurate representation of your image to work from. I create another layer just by pressing the layers. Then I go to the original one and turn the opacity down all the way until I can barely see it, so it doesn't get in the way. And then I just work on that new layer that I created with the black brush, whatever brush I use. I typically use the monoline brush and use it quite thin, or I use the studio pen. I don't ever really use any other brushes than that. I tried a couple of brushes before, and then my app updated itself and my Apple Pencil and my app weren't connecting like they used to, and it kind of reset all the functions, and I could not for the life of me figure out. I had a massive meltdown. I was up until like 4 a.m. in the morning trying to figure out what on earth went wrong, and I fixed a few brushes, and I think the rest I could fix if I needed them, but like I said, to be honest, I don't really use any other brushes other than the monoline and the studio pen. So I guess I'm giving away all my secrets there. But I do typically work on another layer on top of the layer that I'm working, just because it's easier when I want to erase things, and then I turn the background off when I export it. I'll show you that happening in slow motion in a second. But when I export it, I do turn the background off. Then I'm left with just line art, so I can put it over the top of things. It's kind of like a digi-stamp. It's the perfect digi-stamp, to be honest, because it's all black line work. You don't have to clean anything up. And you can see here, if you go to the layers and you turned off the background and then you share that, you export that as a PNG, it will have a transparent background. So you can just lay that over the top of your stuff. I don't know if anyone here is into digital planning, but PNGs are great for that. If you want to just color them in on Photoshop, PNGs are great for that. I mean, you could just use a JPEG for that as well if all your line work was black and white. But for me, I like to superimpose images on top of each other and really manipulate them and work in layers. So it does help to have a clear background. Not always, but just for me. It's also, it's a good quality file too when you share it like that. JPEGs usually can become a little pixelated, but you know, PNGs are the portable network graphic is what it stands for. So it's a little lossless when it comes to resizing in different apps. That's computer talk for I don't know what I'm really talking about, but I've heard it once and I read it somewhere. That's the translation for that. But basically what I did with that PNG, so I traced over what I'd already drawn, right? Now, I don't always love doing that because I love the way that the original sketches look, and when you're trying to clean stuff up, sometimes you lose a lot of the charm of the original sketch. In this one, I still think it was quite charming at the end. It does have a bit of a digital look because I used some straight lines. I used that trick where if you hold the pencil on the page, it kind of snaps to a straight line. And once things start to look a little digital, I don't know. It does work for me sometimes and it doesn't work for me other times. So for this time, I'm happy that it worked. It was still giving me all that feeling that I wanted, but it was just clean. I don't know if I'd still prefer just to scan in the original line work. That's typically what I would go for, and that's how I've done it for as long as I remember. So I think to me it's also, you know, like I'm trying something new and it doesn't feel familiar yet. Even though I've done this a ton of times already, and essentially this is how I created a lot of the coloring book, which I do love those too. Honestly, I think it depends on the charm of the piece. If it is very loose and sketchy, the last thing I want to do is get rid of all of that feeling and, you know, gestural emotion in that picture. You know, emotion is a strong word, but all the feeling that's kind of, you know, in that picture, I don't want to get rid of it by having too many perfectly digital, straight, or curved lines. So, this is a lot of what this video is about for me, kind of testing the look of what I want to go for with the downloads. You're more than welcome to sound off down in the comments about what you prefer, if you prefer the original line art scanned in and cleaned up, or if you prefer some of this digitized, or if you prefer a mix, if you prefer both. Honestly, I will still choose whatever I prefer to do at the end. But I do read the comments, so if there's a hybrid mix that you've come across that I don't know about, that might be interesting for me to read as well. I know a lot of people have been asking for, not a lot, but there's a few comments about teaching bodies. I will just say again that most of my content for Playtest Patreon is already planned, and I'm not really taking any requests, but I will factor that in for the video that you have coming out on Friday, which is a birthday Swatchdolls tutorial. If you remember, last Halloween we started doing those holiday Swatchdolls where it was basically a drawing tutorial with, you know, that we would throw all together in kind of a theme. And so for Halloween, we learned how to draw some Halloween things, like witch's boots and a witch's hat and candy corn. For Christmas we did one. For Easter that was the most recent one we did. So I will have a birthday edition for Patreon on Friday, which will ultimately be released to YouTube one day. It will be repackaged and not re-themed. It will still be a birthday theme, but the video will be redone. So I will be sure to include a bit more of a focus on the Swatchdoll body and some tricks. I won't give you a full in-depth tutorial on that one, just because, like I said, for the fashion figures, that is something that I still am not comfortable sharing, and for the full tutorials, I have to you also keep, you know, some of that stuff for in-person workshops and for online classes. So I'll be sure to give you enough tips and tricks to make it work for you. Honestly, a lot of what I picked up when I was learning drawing was just from copying, and you don't underestimate how much you're able to teach yourself just by, you know, repetitive copying something. It's, you know, you shouldn't copy anything and put it out there as, you know, your own original thought or idea, but if you copy it enough, you'll start to get a feel for how it works. Do you know what I mean? Like what else could I explain that about? Like if you were doing, Well, I don't really know. I think it just kind of works. The explanation works with that. If you do just draw a lot of bodies, you will start to figure out what's connected to where and what bends and moves in a certain way. I tend to push the limits and exaggerate body angles that don't physically actually make sense, but that's just something that I really enjoy doing. And so honestly, if you just copied what I was doing and you did it enough times, you would start to see that most of my curves are the same. Most of my proportions are the same. Most of my feet and hands are never detailed. Small things like that you'll start to pick up on. You'll realize that it's actually not as difficult as you might think. It just probably isn't something you feel super comfortable with yet, and a lot of that just comes with repetition. So I will be sure to feature a bit more information on that in your Friday video, the birthday Swatchdolls tutorial, as well as obviously going through some of the birthday themed doodles that you might want to include. I don't know if it's anyone's birthday out there. Happy birthday to you if it is. But if if you like to make birthday cards for people, you could obviously use that tutorial for that. If you're just looking to learn how to draw something new, that might be it too. And if you just watch these videos to hear me talk, there will be plenty of talking in it as well. So you could always just pop it on in the background and go about your business. Anyway, I'll kind of get close to wrapping everything up. This last one I want to say, Swatchdolls originally were just because I wanted to swatch things out and I like to get a feel for them instead of just making little squares. If you're completely lost as to why they're called that, they were just like little dull looking things that I could fill with all these new watercolors or pencils or markers. Whatever I got, I would just make these little dolls, because then I would have a piece at the end of it. And I wouldn't just have a book full of little squares. I could have a book full of illustrations, or, I also find that working in a little square doesn't really give me a feel for how something works in how I might want to use it. So actually creating a piece in the way that I actually work is probably a better way for me to get an understanding of whether I do or don't like something. So I was really kind of taken with this Rachel Beth, Designs by Rachel Beth watercolor called Nocturnal Animals. It was actually a gift. I got a lovely gift from Katie Hogan at Layer Cake Arts is her Etsy shop. But totally not sponsored or anything. It just, honestly, it turned up and it was a beautiful little gift with some Rachel Beth watercolors, a little postcard, a little wink of Stella pen that I'm still yet to open, but super beautiful gift. So thank you to Katie for that. This was in there, the Nocturnal Flowers. Did I say Nocturnal Animals? I don't know if I just said that, but that's a movie that I have enjoyed before. This is called Nocturnal Flowers, and I just loved the color. It was such a beautiful color, and which Rachel Beth watercolor isn't beautiful, right? So, really taken with it. I just wanted to theme these Swatchdolls a little bit and have a bit of a play with them and play with tone on tone. If you're sick of swatching out the same stuff, or if you're looking to switch up your swatch game, play with tonal varieties of your watercolors, or you can't really do it with Copic markers, I don't think. Anything that is layerable or kind of transparent that you could build up in color intensity is something that you might want to experiment with. So play with the tonal varieties, go really, really light, and then as you add on each layer, just intensify the color a bit more. And essentially that whole page was just using one little half pen of watercolor in Nocturnal Flowers, but it looks like quite an interesting little piece. So just a new thought for your swatching. If you have a favorite watercolor that you might want to try that out with, maybe that's something you could give a go. Other than that, I'll hit you up with a podcast on Japan on Wednesday, and then Friday we will have the Swatchdoll birthday tutorial video. Also on Tuesday you'll get your Patreon first look at Wednesday's YouTube video, which is the partner art challenge, where Steve actually got involved and created a little piece of art on camera with me. It's a part of a kind of like a YouTube blog hop-ish kind of thing, whatever those are called, with Pam. So I'm going to direct you to that on Wednesday, and then on Sunday you'll have a studio notes, so you'll get to see the preview for that on Saturday. Just kind of setting you up for your week and getting you ready for August on Playtest Patreon. Can you believe it's been a month already? I certainly can and cannot at the same time. It's kind of flown by, but also been a lot of work. I'll see you then. See you, bye.